Welcome back, my friends. Welcome back. Don't mind the smell. I mean, it won't go away, but you'll probably get used to it. We're very happy you joined us back here again in the Neon Gutter. For today's episode, instead of visiting rundown casinos or nearly condemned motels, our research actually involved visiting a library. We recently made a trip to Las Vegas specifically to visit the UNLV archives, and we had a fantastic time. We learned more about all kinds of colorful characters throughout Las Vegas's history. And speaking of colorful characters, allow me to introduce you to my two co-hosts, Matt.
Hello, and the smell is not coming from me.
I'm not sure if I believe that or not. But we also have Dan.
This is Dan, and the smell is coming from me. Actually, I'm a little sweaty, but it's also coming from the gutter. Yeah, we went to the UNLV archives. We came full circle. You know, we used to go to, you're talking to now three men in their 50s who were going to Vegas when we were in college. And I don't think I ever had a chance to go to the UNLV campus or any reason to until this, last year. We spent like 2 full days in the library at UNLV.
And could have spent a lot longer.
We could have. And actually,
for sure,
talking about let's go back there. Yeah. Let's get back to the library. But it's just so funny we would get away from college when we were in college and go to Vegas. And it made me actually kind of sad for the UNLV students because where do they go for road trips? I just really wonder that.
Yeah, but as Dan mentioned, I mean, we just can't tell you how great a time all three of us had at the UNLV archives. Yeah, their staff and their volunteers were extremely helpful and friendly. They were just great. And it was a fantastic way to spend some time, especially without spending a dime, which we always find exciting.
They had so much stuff. I mean, boxes and boxes, stuff in the basement that they would haul up for us.
Absolutely. The archives are super extensive. Yeah.
It's Las Vegas laid out. If you go with a plan of what you want to look up, and the more obscure, the better. It's weirder true. Things from Vegas history, the better. But go with the plan. Just don't go in there because you'll be overwhelmed.
Yeah, and you can do some of that planning online ahead of time. Yes. If you look up the UNLV archives, you can search through a lot of that stuff before you get there. So anyway, on today's show, we're going to talk about, surprise, surprise, the Bob Stupak archives. Specifically, the collection at UNLV that documents many of the brilliant, crazy, and ultimately not completed plans that Stupak made throughout the years. But before we get to all of that, let's briefly discuss what made Bob Bob and how it shaped his hopes and dreams. So maybe, Matt, you could start us off by just telling us a little bit about Bob's early life and what his upbringing was like.
What we're going to talk about, it's really a man who flew too close to the sun far too many times. Even if that sun was just a giant styrofoam ball painted yellow hanging over the lobby of his hotel.
It was.
It was, yes. The story really begins, and just briefly, he was born in 1942 in Pittsburgh, and he did not have a normal childhood. His dad was a inveterate gambler, and he actually had, and I found this out by reading his obituary and the notes people put in the condolences to the Stupak family, he actually had an ocelot that he used to walk down this road in Pittsburgh as a child. So he had an ocelot as a pet. So Bob Stupak, even as a child, was already someone who was trying to get noticed or trying to be different.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm thinking it's an attachment thing, like not getting the attention from his parents. If his dad was an inveterate gambler, it's like, please pay attention to me, please. I got this ocelot I'm torturing.
But he spent quite a bit of time in Pittsburgh. That's where most of his life started, and that's really where he started dreaming big. It wasn't when he got to Vegas. It was when he was there.
But I understand that, Bob didn't always dream of becoming a fringy casino owner since he was a young boy. What else did he kind of devote his time and efforts to as an early young man in those days?
I was going to say, we know so much about Bob Stupak, and we didn't know the half of it. Once we got into the archives, it's like, this is amazing. So I guess he tried to be a motorcycle racer. This was one of his phases of, being a competitive motorcycle rider, and couldn't get rich or recognized doing it.
Although he was apparently pretty good at it, actually.
He was like third fastest in the country or something like that. Yeah, he was fast, but he still wasn't famous for it.
Right.
So then he goes on to be, he goes on to attempting to be a pop singer, like a bubblegum pop singer. And
no talent required.
It's so true. Like, he must have had enough money to finance producing this thing. But there's one song you can find on YouTube called "Together" by Bobby Starr.
Yeah, and, that was his stage name, Bobby Starr.
Stage name,
Bobby Starr.
Bob Stupak, Bobby Starr. You can kind of see where he came up with it.
Well, there's a story there. He said, yeah, that's what I want to be, a star. Why not just call myself Bobby Starr?
Exactly. And you had probably Ringo Ringo Starr was out there. The recording starts with the sound of cheering crowds, just kind of like setting himself. And like throughout the song, there's cheering crowds resurge. And then toward the end,
it's so bad.
The lyrics are, I want you, baby. Oh, yes, I do, baby. I need you. Lord, help me.
That's after the cheering, right?
That's after the cheering. Loving you is so hard to do. I want you. I need you. And then it just sort of devolves into unintelligible screaming. Like he doesn't sing. He just screams the lyrics. And at some point it gets a little bit too enthusiastic and you can't actually hear what he's saying, but it does not matter.
Yeah, it's very heavily produced, but he doesn't sing, which is probably a good idea.
Yes.
And we're going to play the song, but not the entire thing. But if you do go searching for the music, I'll just say real quick that there's a porno actress with the name Bobby Starr. So be careful about the links that you click.
Oh, that's Bobbie. Not that I know, but.
I would also say that one of them can sing. One of them might be able to sing, and one of them definitely can't sing.
Now, I'll also mention that this song, believe it or not, was actually a top 40 hit in Australia in 1967. So apparently he has some connections with Australia. Do you know more about that, Matt, about what he was doing in Australia in the 60s?
When he failed as a pop star, when he failed as a motorcycle rider, he became a coupon book hustler, first in Pittsburgh. And these coupon books where he would go to local businesses and say, hey, do you want to, I'll promote you through my coupon book, 2-for-1 car washes, 50% off meals, whatever. Package these up and then sell them for a few bucks. And so it was pure profit for him. And so he moved that business over to Australia. Now, I'm not clear why he did that, why he went to Australia. Could be that he was no longer welcome in Pittsburgh. I don't know. But he went to Australia and he did very well with them. And he also really wanted to get into the casino business there. And they were kind of wary about him. And the casino business hadn't really grown in Australia yet. So he sold the coupon books there. He actually met his first wife there and married her. And I think his first daughter mostly lived in Australia as well.
Okay. I don't know if any of that explains how he got this terrible song onto the Australian radio enough to get in the top 40, but he did that at least for a point.
Well, you got to remember, there's like 80 people that live in Australia. And so like top 40 means he might have been number 39 and number 40 was a wallaby burping Merry Christmas or something. You know, it's not that big a feat, I don't think. And I guess we just lost all 80 listeners in Australia.
Yeah, send your emails to Matt at theneongutter.com.
But let's just say the song did not go platinum. It was more like it went rat biscuit.
Can you imagine, though, being in the middle of the outback and there's nowhere you can go, and that song comes on the radio and there's nowhere you can go? You're stuck with it.
So eventually he does make his way to Vegas, though. When did that happen, and how did that happen, and what happened when Bob set foot in Las Vegas, Nevada?
His first time was 1966, just as a gambler. He was doing so well with the books that he went with a big wad of cash in his pocket, played the high roller. He showed up in town and his suit was all wrinkled from the flight and everything. So he went and bought himself a brand new flashy suit. And I guess it was like a tropical shirt with a white suit or just something hideous. And he went into Caesar's Palace and he lost his entire wad in 1 hour.
My father-in-law did something similar. Oh, sorry if you're listening.
Well, at least he didn't bet more than he could afford to win.
That's
true.
right.
He did not. So he was gone. He was back to, I think he went back to Pittsburgh or Australia. I don't know which at that time, but he was out of town after an hour. He got an earlier flight. He even booked a room at Caesars. He was going to do the big, be a big deal and stay at the nicest place in town. And he left the same day he arrived.
And Matt, you're getting a lot of this information from the book about him. Is that right?
Yeah. One of the sources was John L. Smith's No Limit by Huntington Press. I think it's out of print, but you can probably find copies at libraries and definitely one at the UNLV archives.
Or eBay.
So he sold more coupon books.
Yep, sold more coupon books, and then he had Vegas in his blood then, and that seemed like when he was there in '66, he ate in a coffee shop, and it was like 4 a.m. or something, and the lady said, "Well, do you want breakfast, lunch, or dinner?" And he decided right then and there, "Wow, this is my kind of town."
I want to say this quote that he would say, there's Las Vegas and there's Flatsville. And Flatsville is the rest of the world. Yep. And so it kind of makes sense in the context of the cafe, at 4 a.m. I can get breakfast, lunch, or dinner. This is the place.
Yeah.
I've also got a good quote from Bob I wanted to share regarding some of his earlier professions. He's been quoted as saying he never had a regular job. All of his jobs were self-inflicted. And that's a pretty good quote and one that I think leans to the fact that Bob didn't always take himself super seriously. So, he wanted to be respected. He wanted to be a big shot, but he always had a little bit of humor in the stuff that he did.
It's a good point you're saying there, Bert, too. It's like he's easy to troll because he's such a goof, but he did have a sense of humor about himself, which so few people do.
And he never had a regular job, but he also never had a job where he wasn't hustling somebody.
For sure.
And I think that was his worldview, is that everyone was on the take.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. Especially growing up with, it just makes sense with a dad who's an inveterate gambler. It's like, oh, this is the belief system he was. I'm starting to psychoanalyze him as we're doing this episode.
So he finally moved to Vegas in '71. And that was his permanent move to Vegas. He didn't have a job. He didn't have a plan there. He just figured he would pull himself up by the bootstraps. And I don't think he knew how yet, just that he was confident he could.
So do we know how he went from kind of arriving in Vegas without a plan to actually opening his own place where the Stratosphere sits now, where Vegas World sat?
That was not the first place he had, though.
No, he had his coupon book money. And so he bought into some small places. He tried to make splashes here and there and get noticed. He bought a place called the Chateau Vegas, which was originally Nichon's Cocktail Lounge by the Convention Center. And he renamed it Chateau Vegas. But it was just a restaurant, and he lost his shirt on it. Oh, wow. But it was well regarded. It was a popular place. And from there, he bought what he thought was property on the Strip. He didn't realize that the Strip, Las Vegas Strip, ended at Sahara. And he bought property farther north, so closer to downtown in the really dingy area where Stratosphere is now.
So still Las Vegas Boulevard, but just not the official.
Right.
Yeah, so it wasn't the Strip and it wasn't downtown. It's kind of this no man's land.
It was in the Naked City. And so he opened Bob Stupak's $1 million historic gambling museum and casino.
Bob Stupak's $1 million historic.
It was Bob Stupak's, yes. And if you've ever seen the photos of it, they're hilarious because the whole front of the casino is just spelling out what the hell this place is called.
You should just call it the Bismagka for short.
Well, it was an old car lot, and he didn't demolish the car lot and put a new building there for a casino, he just used the Chrysler showroom as the casino.
Wow. Naturally, this is another theme too. Of course, is he's doing everything on the cheap. You know, he knows how easy come, easy go it all is. So
yeah, and he had like one whole wall covered with dollar bills, or a whole area of the casino covered in dollar bills, just glued to the wall. And I think he said maybe he had $1 million on display, but he didn't. In fact, he didn't even have $1 million. He didn't have enough money to fill the slot machines when he opened the place. So he was running on a shoestring, and he was running afoul of the gaming commission if they knew that he didn't have enough money to actually operate the casino.
But it kind of didn't matter because it wasn't open very long. So what happened there?
Yeah, it opened maybe a few months later, a few weeks later. It burned down.
Yeah, from my information, it opened on March 31st, 1974, and burned down on May 21st, 1974. So it was not even open 2 months.
Oh my God.
And arson was clearly suspected, and after a long investigation, he did get the insurance payments, but
he got some of the insurance payments, not all that he was expecting.
Okay.
And let me point out that one of the reasons arson was suspected is because when the fire started and when they went to extinguish it, nobody was injured because there were 0 customers in the casino. It was apparently not a success. Nobody wanted to go into the naked city to see old slot machines and a bunch of dollar bills glued to a wall. However, Bob Stupak was seen on the day of the fire, after the fire department came, hauling soaked drywall out to salvage those dollar bills.
It does shock me a little bit that those dollar bills didn't come down right before the fire, but
yeah,
at least.
Yeah, and if you've ever seen the photos of the inside of it, it's pretty awesome because it seems like it's like, oh, here's an old slot machine, and then there's like 5 feet of space around this old slot machine that is just there for display. And then he came up with some gimmicks like really high-paying nickel slots and stuff. That was where he really started experimenting with these big jackpots.
Yeah, and that crazy slot machine you're talking about, that it's sort of up on display. It's almost like up on a stage, and it's so bizarre. It had in this absolutely handmade, like, craft store sign that says $250,000 jackpot. Like, it's not centered, and all the font is different sizes and stuff. Clearly just somebody, with some crafting skills made this.
The same skills that might spray paint a styrofoam ball and put it in the lobby of a hotel.
and call it Jupiter.
Yes. Sorry.
And then the slot machine itself looks like it weighs about 3 tons. It's just enormous. It has this big base, like an old 1970s television set kind of a thing, and it kind of goes up. And in the photograph I saw, it's sort of bizarre. There seems to be a television screen or like a 9-inch television monitor on the side of it. I have no idea what that's for, what it's from, why it's there, but it doesn't really matter because it all went away after a few weeks.
Yes, it did.
Stupak is kind of an anti-Renaissance man. Like, he tries everything and is bad at everything.
But he keeps trying. He keeps trying.
Exactly.
And he's not bad at everything. We'll talk about
that's a good point.
The Vegas World ended up being a really profitable venture until he tried to grow further than he could. But anyway, so he burns down, or I'm sorry,
it burned down.
Casino burned down.
It was a bad accident. On May 21st.
And then what's he doing until his next venture comes along?
He bought a place on Ogden Street. Now, this is interesting. It was on Ogden Street next to the California. So kind of behind the Las Vegas Club, but to the east of the California. And it was a small place called The Vault. So think there were 4 tables, like 30 slot machines, and then a restaurant. So a small joint. That was originally the Cinnabar Lounge, and he renamed it the Vault on Ogden. And that's where he was trying to get people to come in there. It was a hard place to draw people to off of Fremont. And that's where he invented double exposure blackjack. He invented that to lure in the Fremont Street casino crews. When they got off work, he would deal them double exposure blackjack. And he was losing like $200 a night dealing this double exposure blackjack because he hadn't perfected the rules of it yet.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's the kind of place that we would have loved.
Oh, I know.
There.
Exactly.
I mean, it must have been like first off the beaten track, had to have been dingy in there. And then, a place where you could make money too. So we're all into that.
Where the casino owner didn't quite understand the rules. Yeah, that's nothing better than that.
And double exposure was where both of the dealers' cards were exposed.
So you can see exactly what they have, and then you know how to act. But the way it's played now, which is still played, the odds are tweaked in other ways to make it still very much a house edge.
Yeah, but blackjack is paid even money, and you can't double down or split, and ties, especially ties go to the dealer. So
to the house. And, so it's bad odds.
It's a terrible game. But he perfected the hustle part of it later. But at that point, he was just trying to get people through the doors. Then he's hustling to get the money to open a real hotel casino, or originally just a casino. He's still got the car lot. He wants to build a real casino now. And he's got an idea for a theme. And he's hitting every banker in Las Vegas, and they're all telling him no.
Is he doing coupons again at this point, or is that kind of a step? Oh.
No, he's Bob Stupak now. He's had his name on the vault and his $1 million gambling museum and casino.
Yeah, the restaurant. Yeah.
I don't know why you see that's such a tongue twister for you, Matt. I don't know.
Well, he came up with a better name for his next place. So around 1976, he really actually gets it into gear with Vegas World. He finds the financing, which in 76 he's starting to put it together, and he doesn't open it till 1979. He said when he opened it that it cost $7 million. The actual fact is it cost about $3 million. And when asked, why the difference, he said, "Oh, well, I just lied."
That's great.
I know.
That's so great. Oh my God. That's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He's so refreshing. He's so awesome. Like, oh, I lied.
I lied. But he doesn't do anything normal. He opens this place. Yeah, it's still in the Naked City. It's still a dump. It's still...
it surely didn't open as a dump. Well, maybe it did.
It did. He didn't have enough money to fill the slot machines and everything, and he was scraping by.
If it opened on 79 and we were there probably first time in 89, that's only 10 years old, and it was a dump then. So
yeah.
And it opened on a Friday the 13th, which is something that no other casino would ever do, to open as their first night on a Friday the 13th, because
he probably did that on purpose.
Superstitious.
Yeah, who knows?
Awesome. He might have.
But he didn't. He was starting to experiment, trying to come up with ways to get people into a casino that nobody wanted to go to. And so he had...
You got to get him up past the end of the strip.
Yeah. So he had double exposure blackjack, and then he had Experto, Experto, I don't know, which was dealt to the bottom blackjack, single deck blackjack, where they just kept dealing cards till there are no deck cards left. Then they would shuffle whatever cards weren't in play and start dealing those.
So basically you could count. If you knew how to count.
Well, I mean, you can always count, but what you want as a card counter is to go as deep as possible. And so to have a single deck game and have it dealt to the bottom is the best situation that a card counter can have. The twist was that Bob, made blackjacks pay even money, and so that edge went away. And there's a great story in the book, in John L. Smith's book, talking about the first guy who was a card counter who heard about the game and came from LA to Las Vegas to try it out. He was winning at the game for a while, and after a while, Bob Stupak came down and sat next to him and just watched him play for hours, and would ask him questions and stuff and say, "Hey, what do you think? And do you think he can beat this game?" And the guy said, "Oh, I don't know." And he said he shook Bob's hand, and Bob's hand was so soft. He clearly had never done a day's work in his life. And Bob really just sat there and watched this guy win for hours. And when he was done, he won a couple $1,000s or something at this session. Bob implored him to come back the next day. So, he I don't know if he gave him a room at the hotel or if he had already booked one, but anyway, he was very enthusiastic and implored the guy to come back the next day. And the next day the guy did, and Bob came back and watched him play. And the guy this time he lost some. He didn't lose it all. He lost back a good deal of it, but he walked away with like an $800 profit or something like that. And then after that, Bob tweaked the rules a little bit more, and that was the game going forward. But I don't know how long it lasted at Vegas World. If
they were still dealing it when we went in the
they were
80s, early
okay.
90s. Yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah, and it was just one table of that, but I remember it being there.
Interesting. He had taken the experts' advice and fixed the game.
Yeah, and he some of the tweaks he made was he changed it so that you could only vary your bet size 1 to 7, and then he reduced it to 1 to 3. So if you bet $5, the most you could bet is $15.
Oh, I see.
Exactly. Yeah, it was changing the bet variance, so it wasn't the house edge per se, but it hurt the crowd counters.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're counting and you know the count is advantageous, then you up your bet quite a bit while the count is high. I see. So he took out
Rain Man would have cleaned Bob out.
No, because he couldn't
I would pay to see that movie.
Yes.
To see Rain Man coming down the escalator in Vegas World in his tuxedo.
Maybe it's time for the Neon Gutter to become a movie production house. And we do Rain Man meets Bob Stupak.
Tom Cruise isn't doing anything. I'm sure we can get
Maybe Cruise can play Bob Stupak.
I could see a Rain Man coming down the elevator in his tuxedo, or escalator in his tuxedo, and going, smells like diarrhea. Smells like diarrhea. Because it did. So, but here's the thing. Stupak, he couldn't leave anything alone. He thought he could do everything better than everyone else. So he monkeyed around with blackjack. He had double exposure and he had experto. Then
crapless
craps. So every number is a point. And so that takes the house edge from 1.4% in a regular craps game to 5.4% for crapless craps. And he sells it as a better game because, hey, you have more numbers. More numbers must be better, but you're actually screwing the customer.
And now Crapsless Craps has made a big comeback on the Strip.
Right.
So now the big resorts, we were just at Resorts World and we were over at Fontainebleau, and they both have Crapless Craps. And I don't know about the rest of the Strip, but it's making a comeback for sure.
It's now feels so evil, like Stupak was monkeying with stuff, and now like they know how bad it is, and it's like they're ripping off this this old scheme. I don't know.
They're trusting.
It's really cynical.
Their faith is in the customer to be too stupid to know better. And then, but even roulette, he created his own roulette, Polish roulette, because Bob Stupak's Polish. And at this point, somehow it got out that he was Polish, and he used that as a marketing tool. Like, oh, I'm so dumb, I'm Polish. He made himself into a Polish joke. Like,
he sold out his own heritage for a profit.
He would have ads with like, oh, these coupons are so crazy, and then there'd be a picture of him saying, I'm Polish, because who else would make such great deals? But Polish roulette actually would have been ideal for us because he advertised it as we lose money on every spin, but we hope to make it up in volume. But
because I'm Polish.
Yeah. If you bet less than $5, the zeros didn't count. So it was an even money game.
So it was actually just 50-50.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool. And so he was banking on the high rollers and the people who maybe won a little bit to start betting more.
Nowadays, the roulettes have 3 zero, double, single, triple, and single, double, and triple zeros. So
some do.
Some of them do. Some do.
Yeah.
And it just gets worse and worse.
Yep.
But there's one game that Bob made, or I don't know if he made it up or if he just brought it in from carnivals, but he had a tic-tac-toe playing chicken. Is that right?
He did.
That's like from New York. Like
he
they
did
have those in old New York arcades and stuff.
Yeah. The Gaming Commission was not big on that. They did not like that. And they shut that down pretty quickly. But he had a tic-tac. You could actually wager on a tic-tac-toe chicken.
You could bet on it?
Yes. And he wouldn't go union with his culinary staff. And so they picketed. And he told the president of the culinary union to play the chicken. And if he beat the chicken, he could have he would make the casino union. But the chicken always won because the chicken got to go first.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Beat the chicken. You can serve the chicken in the cafe.
Yeah. In fact, that's a side story. Bob Stupak scared the union out of his casino because he acted so crazy. that they just like when he would try to meet with the president, he would like stand on tables and he would scream and stuff. And the Culinary Union president was just like, this guy's nuts, and wouldn't deal with him.
Wow.
Yeah. So his properties were never union. So in 1980, he then bought into Fremont Street. He bought Glitter Gulch, which I read that it was a strip club at that time, but I don't know.
I wonder, because we knew it as a slot joint,
yes,
but then turned into a strip club.
Yeah. So I don't know if it was originally a strip club. Yeah, so maybe he turned it into. It was a casino for him, but it was Bob Stupak's Glitter Gulch.
Well, naturally.
So this is
That's how you get people through the door. You put Bob Stupak.
I don't think it was a big success, but the property, which he actually bought from Jackie Gahn, was a big success. And he paid like $500,000 for it and sold it for $2.1 million.
And you'll remember that Jackie Gahn is someone we talked about a lot in a previous episode. So it sounds like he was making connections.
Well, he was actually good friends with Jack Binions and Benny Binion. Well, he adored them, and I think they probably tolerated him.
That was something that we saw a lot in the archives. I'm remembering a photo of him with George Bush. Apparently he was Republican leaning, and there's a photo of him in, being taken with George Bush Sr., but all you can see is the nose up of Bob Stupak, and the rest of him is hidden behind the security. And you can see George Bush, you can see a little sliver of Bob Stupak, but he saved that photo because it's like, hey, I'm with George Bush.
It's an early photo bomb. Yeah.
It is kind of an early photo bomb. All he wanted to do was be famous. That's really it. He wanted attention.
Yeah. Yeah, he wanted attention, and he really wanted people like Steve Wynn to see him as a peer. And in fact, Steve Wynn disliked him immensely, which makes me like Bob Stupak even more.
Yeah. What about this ad? He had an ad in 1988 saying if anyone caught him smoking, he would pay them $300,000. Like, was he trying to quit?
That's a real ad.
Yes.
He was trying to quit smoking, and he failed many times trying to quit smoking. And so he figured the only way to make this work was public humiliation, is what he said. And so he had bet people many times that he would quit and had lost those bets. So he put an enormous ad in the paper, and he put an enormous sum up and said, if you see me smoking, I will give you $300,000. And it was a real ad. It only lasted from like the end of August of that year to the end of the year, to December 31st.
You can see this is just hunger for attention. Like, even negative attention is attention.
Well, it's just promotion. He knows that any publicity is going to be great promotion for him, and so I think it even if he had to have paid that, it would have paid for itself.
And he smoked like a chimney till the day he died. All the pictures of him through all of his history, he's always got a cigarette.
No, not the one with George Bush.
No, maybe not that one. Yeah.
Well, you can't see that far.
You can't see it. That's true.
You can only see up to his nose in that photo.
Up to his nose. That's true. Maybe
it got cropped, because otherwise someone was going to. George Bush was going to get $300,000.
That's right. Yeah, there's a look in his eyes in that photo, like he's trying to look over the shoulder of the security guard, like, oh, don't miss me. It's so sad.
So, of course, Vegas World is fairly successful for Bob as a business venture, and then I believe, we mentioned Australia, and he had a daughter there. To my understanding, he actually visited her in Australia, saw the Sydney Tower, and that got his mind thinking about, how towers attract people. Towers can attract promotion. And so he got this idea into his head that he wanted to have a huge tower in Las Vegas, and that, kind of drove him for the next 10 years or so. So tell us a little bit about what his dreams and hopes and aspirations were for the tower.
Well, I think he wanted to make the largest freestanding structure on Earth. And like, if you had that, how are people not going to come and see that? That's world famous.
Yeah. This was a man who had what he said was the world's tallest neon sign tip over in a windstorm. And now he wanted to build an even taller neon sign.
And when we were going through the archives, we saw a sketch. Like, anyone who wants to see pictures of the existing Stratosphere Tower can see it. The sketch that we saw in the archives must have been twice as tall as that. It's so huge, mostly scaffolding, like clearly drawn by someone with no sense of engineering or what,
or taste.
Yeah, it looks to me. It looks to me if you've ever seen a traditional Mexican fireworks display that they put on like a vertical thing, and it almost looks like it has fireworks on it and so forth. But yeah, like you said,
very gaudy.
It's just a bunch of scaffolding, and there's sort of looks like there's two very thin platforms that people would be able to go up to have a restaurant or a drink or something like that. It's also twice as tall as what there is now, but the FAA would never let them build that.
Right. The original plan was like 1,850 feet, and the FAA said no. And the tower now, all the way to the top of the Needle, is like 1,150 or something. I don't know.
For context, like the St. Louis Arch is 500 feet tall, so his original plan was almost 4 times that big, and now I mean it's still twice as tall as that, which is. It's still pretty impressive, honestly.
Is it? It kind of just blends into the hotels are so tall now. When he built it back in the 90s, it was much taller than anything else, and it stood out. But I don't think it's that impressive anymore.
It's gotten less impressive, certainly.
But I think it's still the biggest structure west of the Mississippi. Is that right?
It might be, yeah.
Dubai is taller? I think it's not the tallest in the world.
In the United States, west of Mississippi.
Okay. Oh, I see. Got it.
Yeah. The Mississippi in the U.S.
Not Dubai's Mississippi.
Oh, that Mississippi.
He lost, and this is a story that's been told many times, but he basically lost control of Vegas World trying to build that tower because he tried to build it himself. He didn't budget properly for it. He didn't have the money. He had to bring in other people. He had to sell public stock. When he sold public stock, somebody else took control of it. Grand Casinos ended up owning the project. They made him an honorary chairman, but gave him no authority, and they ignored all his ideas. And his ideas were a mixed bag. One was that his original plan was to have an indoor jungle at the bottom of the Stratosphere Tower that had real lions in it. Because, if people are coming to a tower, they also want to see lions. It just makes sense.
And we also saw in the archives that the original conveyance to the top of the tower was going to be designed to be a giant, like King Kong, like a 60-foot King Kong that you would get inside of it, and it would climb up the tower or ascend somehow. I was picturing kind of hand over fist, but maybe it just sort of.
Yeah, it was supposed to be mechanical, and it was going to growl, and you could look out from it was called the belly of the beast, and you could look out from it and look down the strip as you rose. And so it was obviously a King Kong ripoff, but I honestly would pay to go on that.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you have to give them credit for the vision. I mean, it's playful. Yeah. It's
awesome.
And we've got some of the concept sketches that we saw in the archive that we'll put up on the website at neongutter.com. So make sure you take a look at that. But I think one of the other features of that was supposed to be that as the gorilla was climbing down, it was supposed to miss a step and then free fall like 30 feet while you were in it.
That's awesome.
That's a thrill ride. Yes, I would have totally gone on it. Sort of a Tower of Terror thing like they have it.
I don't know that I would have gone on it because like everything he envisions, it's like mechanically next to impossible to do what he's thinking about doing. But I mean, I'm not the engineer here, but do you think that's actually possible to build something like that?
I think it is. I think it became a budget thing. I think it was feasible. But if you look at the
I guess that's the limiting factor is Stupak was always on a budget. So consider his budget with his vision
and who would go out and comb the fur every day?
Oh, good point.
And think of how many bananas they would have to have.
Yes. If you look at the Stratosphere Tower, it's like, okay, it's big. But that's about it. If you put a gorilla on the side of it, it's big and it's fun.
And it's fun.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
He also wanted a roller coaster. And there is a roller coaster at the top of it.
Right.
But he wanted one that went down the side of the Stratosphere Tower, dropped 700 feet, and then curved over Las Vegas Boulevard, and then swooped back up in the air on the other side. And then I guess you swoop back down, and then
it's a fishhook shape.
Yeah,
I think it was like So you go up to the end of this fishhook,
and it would end up at Paradise Road. Like a block away. So you would start at the top of the tower, swoop down over Las Vegas Boulevard, and end up a block away at Paradise before you came back.
That would have been terrifying and fun.
It would have been the fastest roller coaster in the world as well, along with the highest drop for sure.
I wouldn't have done it first.
Yeah, I would have done it first.
And there'd be a lot of teenagers in Las Vegas whose first job was cleaning the seats of that roller coaster after every trip.
Right.
That 700 feet, like 100 feet, by the time you get to the bottom, you're scared, but you're like, oh, we're done. But this is 700 feet. It's just going to keep going and going. And it's not going to be fun by the time you get to the bottom.
If it had opened, I would have opened a car wash right next door.
A clothes wash.
The neighbors were having no part of this. They were like, people live around here. Our houses are here. You cannot put a block-long roller coaster with
it goes
people
over
screaming and
boulevard.
barfing all over the neighborhood.
Yeah, that one I would not have ridden on. And so instead, Grand Casinos built a little roller coaster at the top that doesn't even really go up or down. It just goes around and round at the top. And apparently I've never ridden it because I'm too damn cheap and because I'm not going to give whoever owns the Stratosphere money now.
See, that's the difference right there. Whoever owns, we have no idea who owns it.
Yeah, I can't even remember. It's changed hands so
corporation.
many times. Changed hands so many times. I can't remember who owns it now.
Generically named corporation.
Yeah.
I can't remember. But they also have the big shot at the top, which is actually kind of exciting.
Cool.
The roller coaster, to my understanding, is fairly lame and kind of.
Yeah.
I think they might have some kind of other swing thing that goes out there that you can sort of bungee jump off there. But I've done the big shot, which is the thing that kind of catapults you up.
You've done that up there,
and then you drop that. Yeah, I've done that before.
Wow,
and
cool.
it was quite terrifying. Yeah, it's good.
That was Stupak's idea too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
He should have put the lions in the slingshot.
With you.
Yeah. A random person would have a lion in the roller coaster with them.
I just admire his idea to have lions in a jungle at the bottom. And he obviously was thinking about the lions and what the lions would like.
Don't you think that's just a call out to the Mirage, which, was making a big deal with tigers. And so he decided to just, I'm going to up you. I'm going to have lions.
Yeah.
They're bigger than tigers.
Oh, you think your tigers are classy? My lions are going to be classier.
He was an idea man, and a hustler. And I always give him a lot of credit.
He ended up resigning as chairman because they just wouldn't listen to his ideas. And it's kind of sad because the Stratosphere is one of the most boring casinos in Las Vegas. It really could use some Stupak. They had a 24-karat gold-plated statue of him in there when it opened. And when he resigned as chairman, they just yanked it out and said, okay, we're done with Bob Stupak. We're not even going to acknowledge him anymore.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, that's too bad. Well, all right, we're going to take a quick break, guys, but when we return, we're going to discuss Bob's exploits post-Vegas World and the Stratosphere, and why one of his proposed projects would have been the perfect place for Celine Dion residency. Stop laughing. We'll be right back.
If you haven't seen the all-new Bob Stupak's Vegas World Hotel and Casino, be sure to stop in now. It's the most unique casino in the world. In fact, it's out of this world. The space-age decor has been acclaimed by local and national press as simply unbelievable. See it now. It's out of this world. That's Bob Stupak's Vegas World Hotel and Casino. Don't miss it.
Bob Stupak's Vegas World.
Hello, it's me, Lucky Ned. You know me as a world-famous toy horse handicapper on Sigma Derby races. Of course, listeners of the Neon Gutter love Sigma Derby as much as we do. That's why we're bringing you the races at home when you listen to this podcast. I'll tell you the odds on the next race, and you can bet as many quarters as you'd like. After the next segment of the podcast, we're going to give you a live call of the race with all the excitement you can handle. Those little toy horses running as fast as they can go. Now get your pencils ready because I'm going to tell you the odds for the next race. We got Quinella's 1-2. That's listed at 5-1. We got a 1-3 combo is 23-1. 1-4 is the Sharpie Special, 200-1. 1 quarter, 200 come out. Think about what I'm telling you here, 200-1. All right, let's move on. 1-5 is 11-1. 2-3 is 4-1. 2-4 climbs up to a big 34-1. And 2-5, it's like kissing your sister. Disappointing 2-1. Finally, we got 3-4 paying 160-1. 3-5 is 9-1. And at the end is that 4-5 combination that's 76-1. A lot of long odds in this one. You're going to want to put in all the quarters. Now, the winner in this race should be obvious to you. Are we racing in Russia? Clopping in Kazakhstan? Are we going to wire in Wales? Heck no, this is in the good old US of A, right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. So you bet on the spirit of 76. 76-1. That's the 4-5 combination. 76-1 for United States. When you win, don't forget to send the proper percentage to Uncle Sam and your Uncle Ned, too, for giving you the hot tip. Now, I'll see you again after the next podcast part to give you a live call of the race. I'm Lucky Ned, and you better go with guts. That's my advice.
Thanks for returning to the gutter with us. We've been taking a deeper look into the twisted mind and crazy dreams of casino entrepreneur Bob Stupak. And I think the one thing you can say for Bob, with all of his crazy plans and schemes, is that he always seemed to have a sense of humor about it all. But this period, as he was losing control of the stratosphere, was probably one of his darkest moments, and not the least of which was a very serious motorcycle accident that he had. Can you guys talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So after this, he was losing control or lost control of the Stratosphere Tower. He must have been in, I imagine he would have been in a pretty bad way psychologically, but he had a nearly fatal accident on his motorcycle. You know, he was always a motorcycle rider and almost killed himself, had to have reconstructive surgery. And then, you know, when he was kind of bounced back, he was just sort of around, hanging around the Naked City, doing what he does, scheming and plotting. He tried to kind of reinvent himself as a philanthropist and, you know, a sort of a Las Vegas do-gooder. I guess he offered, he was trying to uncover a murder of a child and was offering rewards for that. So, you know, he still was, you know, reinventing, being on the scene, but that had to have been a pretty big blow, building this tower and then losing it.
For sure. And he was really lucky, I think, to live through that motorcycle accident.
He was really lucky.
Yeah, by all reports, it was really bad.
They say he broke every bone in his face. That's what I heard. And he ribs and his leg and maybe his pelvis. And I believe his son was with him too. And his son was injured in that motorcycle crash too.
Wow.
Right. Yeah.
So he was driving really recklessly with his son late at night. And yeah, I think he was probably trying to burn off steam. The pictures from before his accident and after his accident illustrate how drastically the reconstruction was and how different he looked. He looked like a different person.
So he's in this sort of limbo a little bit, and then he makes his way to Reno. Is that right?
Yeah.
Rather than retire,
yeah,
he decided to continue.
I don't think he was the type of guy who could retire.
I don't think he could.
I don't think so either. Yeah.
I think more than anything else, he just wanted to be involved in something and to have his name on something. So up in Reno on the Truckee River that goes right through the town, there were two old, very elegant hotels, the Riverside on one side and the Mapes on the other. And he wanted to buy the Mapes, which in the late 90s, I had the opportunity to sneak into while it was derelict. And we got caught by some construction workers who were doing some work around there, and they asked us what we were doing. We said, we just want to check it out. They said, oh, okay. So we got to walk all over this derelict old hotel. It is a big brick, 188-room hotel with a weird casino that was stepped down as you went in. There were like layers, and you stepped down and down until you got to the showroom area at the bottom. He wanted to buy that, and what he wanted to do was he wanted to give Reno some of his razzle dazzle. And so the Riverside was going to become Bob Stupak's Riverside. And he was going to put the big shot on the Strat is like 180 feet or something like that. So he was going to put one that was like over 200, like 300 feet at the Riverside, you know? So you take an elegant old brick hotel and then you slam a carnival ride on the front of it. And then he was going to do some sort of video projection over the river. So I think he's thinking like Fremont Street experience.
What was that going to?
Maybe lasers or like the show at Mirage.
I was thinking more like maybe he wanted to do like a Fremont Street experience over the river.
Wow.
And so he went up there.
Gondolas and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, still the idea man.
Yeah. But he went up there and he tried to impress the city council and impress the zoning commission and everyone. And Reno is a considerably more parochial town than Vegas.
Still is.
Yes. And they don't take to change or to razzle dazzle nearly as much. And he just couldn't get past them. And they wanted him to lay it all out and spend $1 million designing it and telling him exactly how he was going to do it before they'd even approve it. And so he's like, forget it.
That does sound like the difference between Reno and Vegas. Vegas is just the veneer and the glitz and the craziness. And Reno is the largest little city in the world, or the biggest little city in the United States, or something like that. Yeah. But it's just a regular place ultimately.
Well, and it's a dying place as far as casinos go.
Yeah, it's you can say that, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you how great a place Reno is.
No,
it's not.
Based on our most recent trips there.
Yeah.
They had a great burger place which shut down too. It was awful it was. And anyway.
Yeah. So many of the casinos on Virginia Street have shut down. A lot of the old, really cool places, they're all gone. And Harrah's is gone from there. Big players are gone. There's a handful of casinos and a couple of really big, good ones. But it's just not a town where the name Bob Stupak in lights means much. And I think Bob Stupak would have chafed every single day at the limitations of Reno on his dreams.
Just as an update, the Riverside was almost torn down, but it got a second life, and it still exists today as like some artist lofts, which is kind of cool that they converted the place to lofts for artistic people.
Yeah, and they tore down the Mapes across the street, which was the even cooler looking old hotel.
Mapes, M-A-P-E-S?
Yep, Mapes.
I wonder what that Mapes. Huh, that's strange.
It was a cool place.
So then he was involved in some, and you'll have to talk to this, I don't quite know the details, but involved in like gambling, politics, crime, some kind of scheme with the Binions.
Yeah, do you know the story? You probably know it as well as I do, Bert.
Yeah, because I think we were really sort of heavily involved in a lot of the Las Vegas message boards and so forth at the time, and I was following like Vegas news daily at that particular time, so I remember this story very well and following it every day almost as it was kind of playing out. But go ahead and give us the update on how Bob Stupak kind of got involved in the disturbances between the Binion family members.
Well, this is 1998. So the Riverside was 1996. He's been spinning his wheels. 1998. Jack and Ted Binion, Benny's sons, were in charge of Binion's, and they were doing a great job. Place was making money, doing really well. But their sister somehow got her foot in and was going to take it over with her scheming husband. They were going to take over Binion's.
Was Benny Binion dead at this point?
Benny died.
Okay,
yes.
Oh.
And they didn't like each other. Becky, his daughter, and Jack and Ted did not like each other. Jack and Ted against her. When it was clear that she was going to get control of the casino, they cooked up a plan, Jack and Ted, to take all the brown chips, which were $5,000 chips, mostly used for the high stakes poker, but they had several of these. They still owned the casino. They decided to take all those out of the cage and squirrel them away. And this was legal because they owned the casino. And their plan was, once Becky ran this place into the ground, which they anticipated, they would have all their friends come in and try to redeem those $5,000 chips and bankrupt the cage and make the gaming commission shut her down and make her have to hand it back over to Jack and Ted. Bob Stupak was friends with Jack Binion, I think primarily because, remember, Bob never had enough money to run his casino. So if somebody went on a hot streak, this is how tight things were. If some guy went on a hot streak at the craps table, Bob would have to call Jack and say, "I need cash," and Jack would say, "Meet me in the cage." And Bob would go to Binion's and get cash and take it back to his casino in brown paper bags so that he had enough money in the cage to pay off if this guy cashed out.
But that wasn't that unusual, especially downtown. I think that the casino owners often covered each other, and it wasn't the kind of thing in the corporate days that we are living in now, where
Right.
that would never fly. I
probably
think
wouldn't
back in
see
those
that.
days, at least into the 70s and obviously into the 80s, I think that was
Yeah.
fairly standard procedure, at least downtown.
Kind of gentleman's agreements.
Bob also loved to play poker at Binion's because at that time Binion was the poker center of the universe. That's where the high stakes games were, and he liked that action. So anyway, he was friends with them, so he got some of those brown chips, and he was the test balloon. He was the first balloon to float in and try to cash one of these, and Becky and her husband knew what was going on, and they refused to cash it, even though it was a valid chip. And they sent him away. Said no.
He also had a couple safety deposit boxes filled with
Yes.
cash, about $250,000 or so, and they wouldn't hand it over, even though they were his safety deposit boxes. They wouldn't give him even his own cash back.
Wow,
So
interesting.
this started to grow and grow a little bit.
Yeah. And so Bob Stupak, being the showman that he was, decided there was a anti-gambling minister in town for some reason to fighting against gambling, and he donated that brown chip to that anti-gambling minister to fund that guy's anti-gambling mission. And so that anti-gambling minister went to Binion's and tried to cash in that brown chip. And it was again rejected.
Refused.
Yes. So at this
And
point,
it was this minister who was able to get a hold of like the national media and say, these casinos are not even paying out on the chips that they are giving out. And then it started to really blow up.
yeah. So then Stupak got the Gaming Commission involved and actually had a couple of Gaming Commission investigators come with him and 30 players from the UNLV football team.
For muscle, obviously.
Well, he had been banned from the casino, and
Yes.
so he was technically not allowed to enter the casino, and security would try and stop him. So
Yeah.
he brought the football team with him to make sure that he got through.
Hilarious. I wonder if in their gear, did they?
I haven't seen photos. I did look
my
for photos, and I
God.
haven't seen photos. I'm guessing they were not in full shoulder pads.
I choose to believe they were.
They tackled a cocktail waitress for a 5-yard loss. Yeah, so they go in, and I suspect that Bob Stupak might have even let the media know that they were going to do this big stunt.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And went back in to try to redeem the chip once again. And it was refused. And the Gaming Commission got involved. And ultimately, partially because of all this publicity and everything, Becky had to redeem all those $5,000 chips.
Wow. And that bankrupted them? Or?
Well, I don't know if that specifically bankrupted them, but Becky and her husband's management of that casino bankrupted that casino. And it's no longer in the Binion family whatsoever.
Wow. Huh.
Yeah, they really did run the place into the ground. And
That was
yeah.
one
we're
of the
not
best
the right people
places.
to run it. Yeah.
Yeah, they were they were idiots as far as running a casino. And you know the reason that he did it was he was in the limelight. I don't even know if he thought he was right or wrong, but he was the center of the attention, and that's what he
Right.
wanted.
Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
what he liked.
Absolutely. And that's why I remember that story to this day, because it got a ton of attention for
Yeah.
sure.
And he's the
You know,
hero of the story.
He is the hero of the story. He really is. Yep.
So 1999, he this is something we found in the archives. He wants to build a new property in Las Vegas. He's got the Thunderbird. I guess it was no longer his, but it was a hotel that was an Overspill Hotel.
It was his still.
It was still his.
Yeah.
Still his.
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, after he sold Vegas World, or after he bailed out of there, he used to hang out at the bar at the Thunderbird.
At the Thunderbird.
Yeah.
Kind of a dive.
Yeah.
It was an overflow place for people when they ran out of room at Vegas World. But he wanted to bulldoze that and make a new resort with a Titanic theme. It was going to be a massive ocean liner with smokestacks and actually have the crashing into the iceberg. Like the iceberg was going to be the retail center, and it was going to be the Titanic resort. So I assume this because of the hype around the movie, and there was sort of that sort of resurgence and interest in the Titanic. But that was the
It's
thing.
true, although it
wants
was
to build.
years after the movie came out. It wasn't
Yeah,
like
right?
it wasn't
So,
like
yeah,
he
it
was jumping
wasn't
on a hot ticket.
Yeah.
Right, and how like 78 years after the actual accident? I don't know. I'm kind of guessing here, but what a crazy thought! And in the archives there are some hand drawings of it, which don't do it justice. I mean, like whoever drew those pictures doesn't really know how to draw a boat, but you kind of get a sense of how it would have laid on Las Vegas Boulevard.
Well, I don't think they know much about scale because it looks like it's about 15 times the size of the biggest resort in Las Vegas.
It does. Exactly. Yeah.
Honey, let's stay at Bob Stupak's Titanic. What could go wrong?
Right. It looked like it would have been an incredible eyesore. But again, what a concept. What a concept.
And one of the selling points was it's going to have 280-foot smokestacks because people just get so excited to see smokestacks. You know?
Right.
Yeah. And his plan, he was going to take that Thunderbird property. His plan was to have 1,200 rooms, 800 of which were going to be timeshares. And he was going to sell those timeshares in advance to raise the money to build the rest of the resort. So it was kind of a
scheme.
Ponzi scheme, very similar to the way he originally tried to finance the Stratosphere Tower. And he promised the neighborhood, because the neighborhood was very much against this. He promised them, there won't be a casino. He's going to build a 1,200-room hotel with a retail center. No casino.
No casino, right.
And this was farther north than the Stratosphere. So even farther into a netherworld, a forbidden zone that tourists just didn't go to.
Yeah, but not that much further. I mean, the smoke from the smokestacks would have occluded the view of the tower just as revenge.
What's that smoke? Let's go see.
Yeah, the place is further north than the Stratosphere on Las Vegas Boulevard and just south of Charleston, if you're familiar with the logistics or the location. And apparently and allegedly, some other people had the idea, brought it to Bob, and then he just kind of took the idea, and I think he anticipated that there might be a problem with people saying this was our idea first, because he just randomly named like this back wing of the Thunderbird Motel, just this crappy motel that he had. He randomly named it the Titanic Resort, just so he could establish copyright in terms of already having a Titanic resort in Las Vegas, because he knew he had stolen the idea from somebody else, allegedly. But can you imagine that there was a wing of the Thunderbird Motel called the Titanic Resort before he built anything?
Would you like, you're in the Titanic wing, would you like one of the rooms above or below water level?
Well, it's always easy to get ice. The ice maker is always working.
Right. You just you have a pick and you just pick a bit off.
Can we stay in the Hindenburg wing instead?
But can you imagine eating one of Auntie Annie's pretzels in an iceberg? It's such a weird concept. Like,
bizarre.
Yep.
It's just crazy.
He was nuts. He had good ideas.
Yeah.
So he eventually did end up selling the Thunderbird, and there was some controversy over that. I mean, when is there not controversy when it involves Bob Stupak? So tell us a little bit about what happened. What happened there?
Yeah, once the city and the residents of the neighborhood said there's no way you're going to build a 1,200-room Titanic replica, he gave up and sold the Thunderbird. And when he bought it, it was losing money. He put his wife in charge of it, and it was losing money while his wife was in charge of it. So he brought back the old general manager and said, I'll give you 50% of the profits if once you make it profitable. And that guy turned it around and made it profitable. And Bob Stupak didn't pay him all his profits. And the guy, he also told the guy he'd give him 5% or some percentage of a sale if the guy arranged a sale of the property. And the guy did, and he did not pay him that sales commission either. So that guy sued him. And then the guy who bought it, a guy named Doug Da Silva, who also owned the Artisan Hotel. I don't know if you guys remember that place. It was off of Sahara by the freeway, and it was a it's like an old Howard Johnson or something that he gussied up as the Artisan, and he had like fancy art all over the hotel, or obviously replicas, copies of art.
That rings a bell a little bit. Yeah, I don't think I was ever in that place, but I remember seeing a website or something for that.
Yeah, it was actually a dump, and it actually had some real health code violation issues. But he bought it. He never fully paid for it, but Stupak, for whatever reason, left a safe on the property, and inside that safe were his moon rocks that he had bought from the Nicaraguan government, or I don't know what, that he used to have on display in this tiny little cube in the back of the Vegas World Casino. It was like an attraction to look at these little moon rocks. And they were originally something that the U.S. government gave all countries after the first moon trip as hey, we made it to the moon, here's something for you, and gave everyone rocks. He got the ones from Nicaragua somehow, allegedly. Some people say they aren't real. Those were in the safe. $3 million worth of chips from Vegas World, which had a face value.
Now defunct.
Which had an actual value of $100 were in there. And then he had some certificates about the Moonrock stuff. That was still all left on the property. And Bob wanted that back. And Doug DeSilva said, nope, it's mine. It was part of the property. I bought it. And so they got in a fight over that and sued. And Stupak actually ended up winning that and got the safe back and got his moon rocks. Where they are now, only eBay could tell us.
I think he's buried with them. I'm gonna be buried with my moon rocks.
But DeSilva was a dirtbag too. And DeSilva, I don't know if you guys remember, the Thunderbird became the Aruba Hotel. And it was like a Caribbean-themed hotel briefly. And it was really in bad disrepair. And he ended up selling it again. And now somebody's renamed it the Thunderbird and made it kind of a retro-style hotel.
Yeah, it looks kind of nice, actually.
It's supposed to be pretty decent.
We should stick our nose in there because it looks kind of nice.
Yeah, there were lots of plans of making a really cool bar and having live music there, none of which ever came to fruition. But the Thunderbird is a great name, and the Thunderbird sign is an awesome sign. So it should work.
Now, one thing that probably shouldn't work is Bob Stupak running for office. And strangely enough, it didn't work. But Bob Stupak did run for mayor of Las Vegas. I even have a button from his political campaign. It says, Bob Stupak for mayor, ? You bet! ! That was his slogan.
Because he was a better.
Because he was a gambler, yeah.
I don't know what happened in the first run. He ran in 1983 the first time. And then again in 87, he ran against Ron Lurie.
Yeah.
And also later on, he went to run for lieutenant governor of Nevada. That was 2006. But the mayoral race was really dirty. There was this quote from the LA Times that said, this was between him and Ron Lurie, the race, the most bitter in the city's history, has been marked by phony petitions, urine tests, pulpit denunciations, delivery of fruit to selected voter groups, and a number of proposed debates that Stupak failed to attend. So there was a lot of rumors that he was on drugs at the time, and so he had to submit to urine tests, and he lost. And there's video on YouTube, I think we'll play a clip from, where he gets pretty unhinged. Like I can imagine the emotional strain of running and losing. And so a reporter asks him if he's on drugs, and you can see him just lose it. His tongue sticks out suddenly, and he hauls off and whaps the reporter across the face. He slaps him.
If the voters of Las Vegas want Ron Lurie, then I want Ron Lurie. It's as simple as that. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous.
I can smell it, but that's just my problem.
Honey, you can smell anything you want to smell, okay? Now, what else do you want?
Have you done any drugs tonight, sir? Hey! Sir, I don't appreciate being slapped.
I know you don't. When you ask a stupid question, you'll get a stupid answer. Drugs. All right? God bless Ron Lurie. If Las Vegas wants Ron Lurie, Las Vegas will get Ron.
Is any conduct for a mayor?
I won't forget what you said. Goodbye.
After grabbing the cheek of this reporter, Stupak took off with jeering Lurie supporters behind.
Dr. Pittsburgh, you don't belong in our town. Come on, get out of our town, you bum. You're a bum. You are. You're a bum.
As soon as Stupak left, Ron Lurie and his own father nearly came to blows over the Stupak visit. Undersheriff Eric Cooper had to break that one up. It started back at Vegas World when, with only 1% of the vote in, Stupak took off to Lurie's headquarters, he said, to concede the election. He went in, chatted with Lurie, then, in a bizarre move, jumped up on a table and cheered for Lurie.
We want Lurie! We want Lurie! We want Lurie!
Hold it! I'm going to go now. Let me tell you one thing.
he spent like $500,000 on his campaign. So he was heavily invested in this campaign.
The thing that I saw in the archives was the concession advertisement where he was kind of like, hey, I ran a good campaign. Thanks for considering me. I'm really happy with the way things went. And I was like, oh, he was really a good loser until I saw this clip on YouTube. I was like, oh, this...
that letter was clearly written by somebody else.
Somebody hired.
Somebody not on drugs.
He slaps this reporter, and then the women reporter, he pinches her cheek and says, I'll see you around, honey, or whatever. It was. And then as he's driving away in his limo, people are screaming at him to go back to Pittsburgh. It's
not Bob's finest moment. And all of this takes place like amid maybe 30 people or something in the middle of like the parking lot of a strip mall. It's just
it's in the parking lot of Ron Lurie's campaign headquarters.
Yeah, which was in a strip mall.
Yeah.
So it's a very bad look for everybody involved, really.
Not Ron Lurie. Ron Lurie doesn't show up.
No, actually, that report said that Ron Lurie was actually almost came to blows with his own dad during it. So, so like Lurie's not looking good either.
That's Vegas politics, I guess. In 1983, he came in second. 1987, he came in second. But he won a runoff to actually get to run against Ron Lurie in 1987. So he spent a lot of money, and he got pretty close. So I'm sure he was heartbroken. He said he was done with politics, but he started his own newspaper after that, and called The Bullet, which was a weekly kind of tabloid investigative newspaper. And he tasked his own reporters with investigating the election to see if he got cheated. And in 1991, he didn't run, but he had his daughter, who mostly lived at boarding schools and in Australia, run for city council. And she ran against a guy named Hawkins, and she had no hope of winning. Apparently, she did a debate with him on the radio, public radio, where she had no idea what any of the issues were, and he just demolished her in this debate. Bob Stupak, unbeknownst to his daughter, set up a sting on Hawkins to give him some bad publicity. And that was that he had a woman and a woman under 21 go to him and say, we want to work at a strip club. We want to start a strip club or an escort service. She's not 21, but we can get her a good ID. Can you make sure that she'll be able to work if we get her that ID? And he said, well, if the ID is good enough, let's go back to my apartment and discuss this some more. And this was all a sting, and it was all recorded. And somehow the tapes of this got anonymously released to the media. So everyone knew it was Bob Stupak. It was a big story, but it totally backfired on Bob Stupak. And this is the kind of town Vegas is. They much disliked the snitch than the guy who won. Right. And so Hawkins won. He won even though he was on tape saying he would help this woman with a fake ID be a stripper underage.
Wow.
Amazing.
And the other thing, in 2006, when he ran for lieutenant governor, this is way after, he's been out of the limelight for over 10 years at this point. And they asked, why are you running for lieutenant governor? He goes, I don't have anything else to do. It's kind of sad. He just faded away. His ideas just kept getting rejected. And a lot of it was because of his reputation from earlier in his career. People didn't want to do business with him.
But again, a very honest answer. Just like, I lied. I got nothing else to do. I might as well.
So, and he also tried to run an Olympic committee, tried to get the Olympics into Las Vegas in 1988. Which Las Vegas would be a horrible place for Summer Olympics. And I'm pretty sure they didn't want the winter ones there. But I don't know how far that went and how serious it was.
And as we know about Olympic committees, especially 20 plus years ago and beyond, they were rife with corruption. So it was probably also a money-making scheme of some kind too.
Again, it just is such a great campaign slogan. Bob Stupak, I got nothing else to do.
This year, the Olympic Marathon will be ending in the Bob Stupak's Vegas World parking garage.
I love it. The idea they have to run up the parking garage ends on the roof. At the end.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Bob may not have succeeded in running for mayor of Las Vegas. We hope that you will all elect to stick with us. We're going to take a very short break and be back before you can say, we want Lurie. We want Lurie.
Shut up.
Don't go away.
Stealing glimpses, feeling
If you haven't seen the all-new Bob Stupak's Vegas World Hotel and Casino, be sure to stop in now. It's the most unique casino in the world. In fact, it's out of this world. The space-age decor has been acclaimed by local and national press as simply unbelievable. See it now. It's out of this world. That's Bob Stupak's Vegas World Hotel and Casino. Don't miss it.
Yeah, I'm talking about Bob Stupak's Vegas World.
And now it's time for the Neon Gutters Sigma Derby Race of the Week.
Welcome back to Sigma Derby at the D with the Neon Gutter. We've got an exciting 5:23-200 race. That means there's a 200 to 1 that we're all going to be on fully.
So both the triples, right? I'm taking both the triples.
There's a 160 to 1 and also a 200 to 1 that Ski and Matt are going to be betting heavily. The horses are approaching the gate, and they're off. 1, 2, 3 are neck and neck to start off. 5 is close behind, and 4 is lagging. It is still 1, 2, 3. The fans are cheering loudly as there's a lot of money on this race. It's the Sigma Derby sweepstakes. It's 1, 2, 3, and here comes 5 on the outside. Here comes 5. The crowd is going crazy. It's 4, 5. It's 2, 3. It's here comes 1. Here comes 1. Here comes 1. Oh, and it is 3, 5. The 9 to 1 shot. 3 to 5. There's a lot of groans. There's some crying. There's some tears. I hope they weren't on your face.
Justice for the ponies.
We'll see you next time in the Neon Gutter.
Hey, it's Lucky Ned again. Did you win on that race? I know I did. If you didn't, you should try to be luckier. The more you win, the luckier you are. It's a very simple mathematical formula, but not everyone understands it. Now, if you want to get more highly advanced advice on betting the toy equines, you can go to neongutter.com and download my Sigma Derby Incredi system at no cost to you. But boy, is it going to pay off. We're going to have more Sigma Derby action for you on the next episode, so tune in. And now back to the show.
And we're back in the Neon Gutter. We just wanted to wrap up this episode with some thoughts about Stupak's legacy. So maybe, Matt, you can take it away to start us off.
Just that I miss him. I think Las Vegas is a poor place for not having characters like him or characters like Benny Binion or Jackie Gahn, these iconoclasts, these individuals, without the risk-taking and without the hustle and the scam, there's something much more appealing to me about a Vegas that's slightly sinister and that there's something going on where you have to figure out how not to be taken advantage of. And now, it's just a big mall with slot machines.
Yeah, and they're taking advantage of people on purpose with these, scams, but it has no personality to it.
It doesn't have the game. It doesn't feel like a game as much anymore.
Stupak died in 2009 of leukemia. Yeah. I thought we'd say that. And now the statue's gone. But I really want to shout out to the archives again. I feel like we are these torchbearers for this weird character. Honestly, when we first started talking about Bob and getting right with Bob, I was thinking of the Church of the Subgenius. Well, it's another great Bob who, there's a few of us older folks who are carrying on this knowledge of this kind of funky weirdo outsider thing. And it's I'm glad all this stuff still exists in the archive somewhere. So, and this whole thing has been a plug for the Church of the Subgenius. Sorry, you guys didn't realize that.
But yeah, shout out not just to the archive, who, like I mentioned at the top of the podcast, does a great job, but also Bob's family for donating all of that stuff to the archive so that it would be there for posterity and so that goofballs like us could come by and talk about it and just kind of wonder over Bob's imagination, which was incredible.
And there's also the Bob Stupak, community center where we played a game of Bob Stupak's board game.
Yeah, very nice legacy for him.
Also, maybe a good callback to the first episode if you haven't heard it, which is all about Stupak.
Yeah, and there's also Chester Stupak Park in the Naked City as well. So
who's Chester Stupak?
That was his dad.
His father.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
He did make some magnanimous gestures. Of course, he put his name on them, but still, they're benefiting the community.
Well, thank you guys. I think we can all agree that despite the fun we have talking about Bob and his crazy ideas, that without him, Las Vegas is just less interesting, and we wish he was still around. And let me just add to our audience, if you're intrigued about Bob after hearing all of our stories over a number of episodes, he actually made a handful of film and television appearances over the years. In fact, he guest starred, his biggest role, I think, he was guest starring on an episode of Crime Story in the 1980s, a TV show back then that was created by Michael Mann. And he's in season 1, episode 19, entitled The Pinnacle. And it's currently on YouTube. And he basically plays a character that's himself. He even talks at the very beginning of the episode about having all these big casino plans, about putting money on the walls and all this stuff that he wanted to do early in his career. And he's talking about it as himself. Although also, again, with a little bit of humor and sort of a self-deprecation to it. So it's cool if you want to see what Bob looked and talked and acted like. You could check that out. Thanks, guys, for all the insights on Bob. Thank you to the UNLV archives for helping us out with this episode. And, of course, thank you all so much for listening. We will see you next time in the Neon Gutter.
I want you, baby. Oh, yes, I do. I need you. Lord, help me.
The cash won't last.
The Neon Gutter is a Big Empire production. Randy Shandis, executive producer. Our incredible theme music is courtesy of Rosin Coven. Do you have something to say? Call our voicemail line at 775-400-2941. And for more episodes, vintage photographs and video, contact info, and those amazing trip reports, visit us at neongutter.com.
Las Vegas haiku. Why? Why did you go? Don't you know I need you so?
Business is good. Business is good.
This is good.